Tota and Kuromaru stumble back to headquarters where the ever-dull Iku, the always-annoyed Karen, and Kiri, the sand-playing girl, greet them. Iku hints that there's more to Kiri, who then drags Tota off to scold him like a child. Kiri starts spewing absurd commands, and when Tota's patience runs out, he demands to know what's going on. Kiri, in her dramatic flair, claims Tota failed to protect her. Just as she's about to explain, a shadow mage attacks. Instead of letting Tota fight, Kiri insists he holds her hands, and they magically time travel. They reappear under the tree where Kiri is playing with sand. Kiri, basking in her self-importance, explains her power to rewind time. Iku and Karen show up, confused as usual. Tota tries to spill the beans, but Kiri kicks him to shut him up. She demands they go back to the capital, claiming Koryu will be there. Kiri boasts about her non-magical, unique power on the boat, using special mountain sand to rewind time. She smugly declares she's UQ holder number 9, and not even Karen knows her true power. Kiri then reveals they've been stuck in a Groundhog Day scenario, with Tota failing to protect her every time. She recounts their first playthrough, where Tota somehow managed to defeat Chao. She warns about Fate Avarunkus, the so-called greatest mage ever, who plans to kidnap Tota. Kiri continues her monologue, explaining how she and Kuromaru were separated from Tota and Iku during an explosion. Kuromaru, ever the impulsive one, ran off without listening. They arrived to find Fate wiping the floor with Tota and the squad. Fate, with his ridiculous white hair, declares he owns Tota. About to be petrified, Kiri melodramatically terminates herself to reset time. Tota, completely bewildered, asks about Fate. Kiri explains that Fate, once a hero, turned rogue for some vague reason. She's clueless about his claim over Tota, but insists it's catastrophic if Fate gets him. While discussing this, Iku and Karen pop up, having eavesdropped on everything. Kiri's secret is out, and she fears people knowing her weakness. Tota assures her that Iku and the others, as useless as they are, won't harm her. The team pledges their protection because they have nothing better to do. Kiri lays out a convoluted plan to deal with Fate. They know when and where he'll strike and need strategies to capture him. Yukihime, their mysterious leader, has approved the mission. Tota is bait, while Karen and Iku serve as distractions. Kuromaru and Kiri will be on standby, with Kuromaru tasked with positioning Kiri behind Fate. If she touches him, all their problems are supposedly solved. The squad begs Kiri to take them when she teleports Fate, and she reluctantly agrees with strict conditions. With the plan in motion, Tota communicates via smartphone. He questions why Yukihime, with her incredible power, isn't helping. Kiri explains that Fate would sense Yukihime's presence, derailing their plan. As Tota chats, a hooded figure bumps into him. Curious about Fate, Tota watches a video of Yukihime, who conveniently explains Fate's history. Fate helped save Mars 80 years ago, alongside Negi Springfield, Tota's grandfather. After Negi's death, Fate turned into a menace. Yukihime warns Tota to ignore whatever Fate says, and the video ends. Fate finally appears, but the team can't use the taser because Tota's childhood friends are with him. They're forced to sit back and watch, their brilliant plan hanging by a thread, proving once again that this squad couldn't execute a decent strategy if their lives depended on it. Tota stands there like a deer in headlights until his friends finally notice him and rush over. Iku, the resident genius, sees that Fate is only a few meters away and realizes that this is his chance, but before he can even activate his laser, he's attacked. Classic Iku, always the premature planner. Fate, the overdramatic villain with a flair for theatrics, appears behind Tota's friends, gripping their shoulders like a creepy uncle. Tota, already sweating bullets, braces for disaster when Fate, in his best sinister voice, introduces himself as a longtime friend of Tota's grandfather. His friends, eager to make new friends even in a crisis, want to introduce themselves, but Fate, ever the know-it-all, cuts them off. He already knows their names, Nikumaru Tanaka and Toru Mihashi. How? Because he's Fate, the omniscient plot device. Fate, flexing his villainous muscles, suggests that Tota come with him or face the consequences, namely, everyone in the area, including Tota's friends, getting sliced and diced. Tota, who couldn't strategize his way out of a paper bag, argues and declares he'll never go with Fate. Kurobo, his trusty sword, flies into his hands, and Tota screams about a terrorist on the loose. This brilliant plan serves as a distraction, allowing Karen to sneak up and attack Fate. Predictably, Fate easily blocks the attack, a smug smile plastered on his face. Tota charges in, only to be blocked just as effortlessly. Fate's grin grows, infuriating Tota even more. In desperation, Tota increases his sword's weight to an absurd 500,000 times, breaking through Fate's barrier. Fate's sidekick, who must be as brain-dead as Iku, gets distracted, allowing Iku to break free and fire his laser. Fate throws up another barrier to block the laser, but then Kiri, our self-proclaimed tactical genius, jumps in and hugs him. Yeah, because that always works. Predictably, Fate takes the opportunity to petrify her, their so-called trump card. Fate mocks them, declaring they're out of options. Iku, never one to give up on a bad plan, keeps firing the laser to cover their escape. But Tota, the stubborn hero complex incarnate, wants to stay and fight. He believes there's still some humanity left in Fate, because why not? Just then, Fate's cronies, Shaba and Asura, show up to engage Karen and Kuromaru. Iwai, the obligatory female fighter, squares off with Iku. Karen, the only one with a shred of common sense, knows they should retreat, but of course, their enemies won't let them leave. Tota charges at Fate with his flash step skill, only to be easily deflected and slammed into a wall. Fate then unleashes a barrage of blades, which Tota somehow dodges, but not without losing his shirt. Great. Now it's an anime fight scene. Realizing that Fate is not just the world's strongest magician, but also a martial artist, Tota changes his sword's weight at intervals to mess with him. In the middle of all this, Tota gets a call from Karen. Numbers are floating on Kiri's arm, indicating she's up to something. They need to delay Fate and his goons until the countdown hits 0. Tota manages to hold out until the numbers reach 0. Fate, the egotistical prick, realizes too late that Kiri has been concocting a petrification cure. She grabs Fate, and the rest pile on, successfully transporting everyone back to their base. Fate wakes up in a basement, surrounded by Tota and his merry band of misfits. Yukihime is there too, smirking at him for falling into the kid's trap. Fate, ever the battle enthusiast, is ready to throw down with Yukihime, knowing he might win. But facing 4 other immortals isn't on his to-do list. So he offers a deal. Let him go, and he'll answer any question truthfully. Everyone gets one question. Iku, the eager beaver, asks why Fate wants Tota. Fate reveals he needs Tota's power to revive Negi. Tota, whose IQ is apparently room temperature, thought his grandfather was dead. Karen, the nosy one, asks who Negi loved more, her or Yukihime. Fate, wisely avoiding Yukihime's wrath, dodges the question. Kuromaru then asks if Tota has to go with Fate immediately. Fate, probably bored by now, says no, revealing Negi won't die for 20 years, and the world will die with him. But Tota doesn't need to go right away. Finally, it's Tota's turn. He asks if Fate killed his parents, and Fate, ever the blunt instrument, says yes. Tota, predictably enraged, prepares to attack when a live image of Negi appears. Yukihime, communicating with Kuromaru via telepathy, tells him to look for a device on Tota's body. Kuromaru finds and destroys it before Negi can spill the beans. Fate and Yukihime, clearly experts in dodging accountability, decide it's best to keep Tota in the dark. Nothing says trustworthy like keeping all the secrets. After the whole chaos with Fate, Kirei is fuming because she missed out on the action. Tota, ever the nosy grandson, keeps badgering Yukihime to spill the beans about his grandfather, but she's not having it. She locks herself in her office and mutters apologies to herself. Meanwhile, an old lady and a girl named Yuki show up, demanding to see Yukihime and Tota. Tota, stuffing his face with Shinobu's cooking, is rudely interrupted when Yuki bursts in. She dramatically introduces herself as Yukihiro and declares that Tota belongs to a family of lady killers. Apparently, Yuki's great-grandma was one of their victims, and she's here to put a stop to their womanizing ways. Yuki charges at Tota, who, in a classic overreaction, smacks her so hard she flies into the distance. Not one to let his potential bride crash land, Tota zooms after her and sets her down on a roof. Yuki then reveals her real agenda. She wants Tota to be her groom. Tota, flabbergasted, declines because, well, he's not into sudden proposals from deranged women. Meanwhile, Yuki's great-grandma is chilling in Yukihime's office, reminiscing about the good old college days when Negi was the hot professor every girl wanted. Yuki's great-grandma was one of those love-struck fools. While they're busy gossiping, Yuki is whipping up meals to win Tota's heart. Kirei and the other girls are horrified to discover Yuki is cooking by herself, fearing she might succeed. Kirei, always in denial about her feelings, collapses dramatically, but refuses to admit she loves Tota. Karen, ever the realist, believes human girls have the upper hand over immortal ones, breaking Kirei's heart further. Enter Iku, the master of terrible ideas. He suggests the girls spend time with Tota at the springs. Kirei and Karen resist, but Iku, the blackmail genius that he is, threatens to spill the beans to Yuki. Reluctantly, they consider his plan. Meanwhile, Yukihime and Yuki's great-grandma continue their nostalgic chat, discussing how Yukihime is afraid of letting people go. Great-grandma quotes Negi, saying all it takes is a little courage. Easier said than done when you're an immortal drama queen. At the springs, Tota and Iku are soaked when Iku's plan kicks off. He's told the girls they need to scrub Tota's back 50 times to become his favorite. Out of nowhere, Karen appears, surprising Iku. Claiming she's just watching, she whips out a brush and pins Tota to the floor, scrubbing like there's no tomorrow. Kirei barges in, aghast, wondering why Karen, who usually couldn't care less, is suddenly so keen. Not to be outdone, Yuki arrives, and it becomes a chaotic back-scrubbing contest. Kuromaru swoops in and grabs Tota, adding to the madness. Amidst the chaos, Tota is flung to another side of the spring. Yukihime, ever the opportunist, starts scrubbing Tota's back while the others bicker. Too late, they realize Yukihime has stolen the show. Iku, the pot stirrer, tells them not to worry if Yukihime and Tota already have a thing. Then, he wisely flees. Yuki and Shinobu sit down for a heart-to-heart about their rivalry. Yuki declares she's protecting Shinobu because she's weak, but she won't let her have Tota. Later that night, Tota meets Yukihime at the pier. Yukihime, in her true form, wants to have a serious chat. Tota, always the curious cat, asks if she loves Negi. Yukihime finally admits she does, but adds that the Negi who appeared recently isn't the one she loves. She explains that 20 years ago, Negi defeated an evil wizard, the Mage of Beginning, who then possessed him. Yukihime and Fate are both trying to save Negi but have different methods, hence their split. Tota, always missing the big picture, points out Negi was trying to tell him something before he vanished. Yukihime reveals the truth. The people who died in the crash weren't his real parents. Tota, ever the melodramatic, wants to know if they're still alive. Yukihime drops the bombshell. Tota is a clone of Negi, created from his genetic material. Tota, ever the dramatic, is left in stunned silence as the truth sinks in. Tota, still reeling from the news that he's a clone of his granddad, decides to spill the beans to Kuromaru. They're mid-conversation when Yuki bursts in like the Kool-Aid man, excitedly dragging Tota to the Mahora martial arts tournament. Upon arrival, Tota's like a kid in a candy store, but his hopes of competing are dashed when he learns that participants are pre-selected. The only way in is if someone is incapacitated, a glimmer of hope for our hero, but for now, he'll have to wait. While Tota is sulking, Yuki's great-grandma Ayaka, accompanied by Chachamaru and the tournament director Mana, rolls in. Mana, who is also the headmistress of the school, casually drops the bomb that this is indeed a school, and that Negi, Tota's granddad, was a teacher there 80 years ago. Because apparently, time flows weirdly in this universe. Meanwhile, Shinobu, ever the follower, decides to head to the capital because FOMO is real. Back at the school, Ayaka and the squad take Tota on a trip down memory lane to his granddad's old classroom. There, they meet Sayo, another relic from Negi's teaching days. Kirei and Kuromaru show up, flabbergasted to see Yuki solo. Yuki's excuse? Her great-grandma has snatched Tota, likely to do some naughty things with him. Gross, but okay. In the classroom, Ayaka, defying the laws of physics and age, gets up from her wheelchair to get a good look at Tota. She's thrilled to meet Negi's grandson, though Tota tries to clarify that he's technically a clone. Ayaka doesn't care about his technicalities and insists he's exactly like Negi, then proceeds to hug him like a long-lost teddy bear. Just then, Mana gets a call. 2 contestants are down, and they need replacements. Mana looks at Tota and decides he's the perfect candidate. Tota's in, and his first opponent is a hoodie-wearing mystery named Cutlass. The fight starts, and Tota charges in, only to get dodged easily. Cutlass smirks and calls him brother. Plot twist, it's a family reunion in the ring. Kuromaru, ever the worrywart, senses Cutlass might be tougher than she looks. Meanwhile, Mana learns that Cutlass is the one who put the previous contestant out of commission. The battle intensifies, and it's clear Tota is outmatched. Cutlass effortlessly cuts Tota in half, leaving him bewildered and Yuki demanding Kuromaru do something. Kuromaru points out that a powerful barrier surrounds the stage, so they're stuck watching the slaughter. Tota manages to pull himself together and activates Arabia, but it's still no match for Cutlass. She pins him down with poles and mocks him as a fake Negi. Motivated by his friends cheering, Tota frees his left arm and lands a punch, revealing Cutlass is a girl. Because why not? Just when things couldn't get weirder, Cutlass announces she's just the opening act. Enter Negi, or rather, the mage of the beginning, Beuth. Negi Beuth declares he's come for Tota because only Tota can save the world. Tota, ever the skeptic, argues that Negi should have found him sooner. Negi explains he's been sending visions to his blood relatives, hoping they'd find Tota, but Yukihime kept him hidden. Yukihime crashes the party, shattering the barrier with ease, proving she's not just a pretty face. She addresses Negi as Beuth, signaling a major showdown. As if things weren't chaotic enough, 3 more of Beuth's cronies show up, and Kuromaru, Kirei, and Karin arrive to back up Tota and Yukihime. So, the stage is set for an epic clash of 2 powerful groups. Tota, the clone with a heart of gold, Yukihime, the ultimate helicopter parent, and their motley crew of friends ready to face off against the mage of the beginning and his minions. Let the battle begin, and may the best dysfunctional family win. Yukihime, ever the drama queen, warns Tota and the squad that Beuth and her team are a nightmare to deal with. She introduces Negi's posse, Yue, the all-knowing detective because Google wasn't around back then, Nodoka, the mind reader because apparently privacy is overrated, and Jack Raken, the overly muscled mercenary swordsman who compensates for his lack of brains with brute force. Oh, and Negi himself, who promptly sneezes and blasts everyone's clothes off, because why not? Enter Shinobu, just in time for the strip show. Yue and Nodoka try the diplomatic route, asking Tota to come quietly, explaining he's the only successful result of 71 failed attempts to combine Negi and Asuna. Tota, our stubborn hero, says no, and suddenly a portal opens, sucking them in. Tota lands in another era, face to face with a dude named Sanders, who Kurobo promptly outs as Albareo Ima, Kurobo's creator. Sanders, pissed at being exposed, punishes Kurobo with black hole pressure. Very mature. Sanders then reveals he's Yukihime's old buddy, but now works for Negi. Does his genius plan to convince Tota? Show him Yukihime's cringy love story. Tota watches Yukihime meet and swoon over Nagi, Negi's dad, and then get all weird and clingy with Negi at Mahora Academy. Asuna was the only sane person, rescuing Negi from Yukihime's bizarre training methods. Tota is watching Yukihime smooch Negi when Sanders drops the bomb. These aren't just memories, they're happening now. Beuth crashes the party, grabbing Yukihime and impaling Tota for good measure. Beuth slices Yukihime in half and throws her to the ground. Tota, crawling dramatically, touches Yukihime's hand, miraculously putting her back together. Yukihime confesses she's always wanted to be with Tota. Cue the world's most awkward love declaration, while Beuth rolls her eyes. Tota, with all the determination of a shonen protagonist, vows to make Yukihime happy. Beuth, unimpressed, attacks them. Yukihime reveals they're in a dimension where Beuth has ultimate power. How convenient. They plan to use this against her, creating an even playing field. Yukihime says breaking Beuth's mind here will end her for good. Charging at Beuth, they get distracted when she conjures an image of Negi, easily knocking Yukihime down. Tota, attempting to attack, also gets knocked over. During the scuffle, Yukihime admits she's only loved 3 people in her 700-year life, and our clueless hero fails to realize the third is him. Yukihime manages a powerful spell against Beuth, but it's not enough. Tota is dragged into the abyss by visions of Karen and the other girls. Out of nowhere, Asuna swoops in, destroying the dark dimension and introducing herself to Tota. He immediately recognizes her as his grandmother. Yukihime is shocked to see Asuna, who's supposed to be on Mars. Asuna, using some convoluted logic, says her real body is still on Mars, but she's here because Beuth messed with Tota. She hugs Yukihime, who's probably grateful for the interruption of their endless drama. Karen and the rest show up, just in time for Beuth's attack, which Asuna effortlessly blocks. She informs the team they've only been in the dimension for 0.7 seconds, and the real fight starts once they leave. Before exiting, Asuna reveals the opponent's weaknesses, telling Tota his inner power is the key to defeating Beuth. He has 37 seconds to unleash it. Asuna slashes the imaginary dimension, bringing them back to reality. Kirei goes after Jack, aiming for his eyes, and successfully knocks him down. Kuromaru binds Yue and her sister, taking them out of commission. Yukihime traps Cutlass with an ice barrier. Tota, activating his Erebia power, charges at Negi, who dodges his attack. Tota declares his determination to save his grandpa from Beuth's control, embodying the classic shonen spirit of endless optimism and questionable strategy. The team is in the middle of a chaotic battle with Negi's comrades, valiantly trying to keep them occupied while Tota attempts to access the mysterious power within him. Just as Negi is about to make Tota a punching bag, Fate arrives fashionably late to save the day. He and Yukihime manage to hold Negi down, trapping him in a barrier that pulls out their consciousnesses, allowing them to have a group therapy session. Negi, in all his self-important glory, starts lecturing about how he's part of Beuth now and must be terminated. But Tota, the master of bad timing, interrupts. He tells Negi to focus on Yukihime because she misses him a lot. Cue Yukihime leaping into Negi's arms like a lovesick teenager. Negi tries to impart some wisdom to Tota, but their connection gets cut, and they snap back to reality where Negi breaks out of his restraints like it's child's play. Negi starts glowing and turns into a nightlight, attacking the trio effortlessly. Just as Tota's 37 seconds of power-up time ends, he activates his inner grandpa power. Meanwhile, Karen and the others are getting their butts kicked by Jack and company. Tota tries to flee, but Negi chases him, leading to a mid-air family squabble. Tota scolds Negi for losing himself to both, determined to save him whether Negi likes it or not. Tota seems to have the upper hand until Jack, never missing an opportunity to be a jerk, impales him with a giant sword, sending Tota crashing back into the arena. The team, already beaten to a pulp, looks like they've been through a blender. Negi is ready to finish Tota off when Kirei heroically jumps in, reminding Negi of her power. Negi, smirking, approaches Kirei, who's crushing on Tota but keeps denying it. Yue and Nodoka, always the nosy Parkers, read her thoughts aloud, but she still denies it. Cutlass, proving she's a sadist, starts torturing Kirei with her sword, while Tota struggles helplessly. Kirei, enduring the pain, signals to Tota that it's time to reveal their master plan. Suddenly, they're transported to Mahora Academy, 80 years in the past. Negi gets hit with magic sealing bullets by students who seem oddly prepared for this nonsense. Negi, defying logic, breaks free, but is met with tearful, nostalgic attacks from his old students. They manage to inject him with something that weakens him. Confused, Negi wonders how these blasts from his past are standing before him. Turns out, Tota isn't just a mix of Negi and Asuna's genes. He's got the DNA of all the girls from Class 3A, making him a walking, talking genetic experiment. Asuna shows up, hugging Negi in a touching yet awkward reunion. They get zapped to another location, where Negi realizes he's losing control of the situation. He tells Asuna they'll retreat for now and promises Tota he'll be waiting at the top of the tower. A dramatic bright light teleports Negi and his team away. Back in the arena, it's a wreck, but miraculously, no one's dead. Jinbei, the unsung hero, evacuated everyone but remains annoyingly secretive about how he did it. Fate, reverting to his aloof persona, tells Yukihime not to interfere next time. Yukihime, ever the rebel, makes no promises. Tota, with all the resolve of an anime protagonist, vows to meet Negi again. After the chaos, Kirei insists her confession was just a ploy to stall Negi. Shortly afterward, Tota storms into Yukihime's office to declare his love. Yukihime's response? A swift punch to the face. Tota, unfazed, rushes back in, prompting Yukihime to finally give her answer, a blunt no, leaving Tota stunned. The girls burst in, chasing Tota for ignoring them in favor of Yukihime. After they leave, the camera reveals Yukihime blushing hard, pretending not to care. She mutters that Tota is 500 years too late, clearly enjoying the drama.